Welcome to the Ambitious Coach Podcast. This is a place where driven, determined coaches learn how to get off the business growth struggle bus and learn how to build a wildly profitable online coaching business. I'm your host, Allison Henderson, corporate dropout to six-figure social media business coach. I'm going to show you how I've been able to create the business of my dreams organically, all through utilizing my social media platforms. So pull up a seat, take some notes, and get ready to see your life and bank account transform. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ambitious Coach Podcast. I have a very special interview for you today with Jessica Marie. We dived into how people-pleasing is showing up in your business, what being authentic truly means as a business owner. We talked also about showing up as a leader and just so much more. I truly love this interview with Jessica. She has just such a presence about her. She is so beautiful inside and out, and just everything she was saying, I was just like, yes. So I know that you are going to love this episode so much. If you guys don't know who Jessica is, Jessica Marie is a mentor, spiritual guide, and women's retreat host. Her big mission is guiding others to create more fulfillment and success by removing deeply ingrained patterns and behaviors that are really just keeping them stuck. And so she gets you clear on leading your life through your own heart's desires. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. So without further ado, here is Jessica Marie.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Jessica, I love starting my podcast with just telling me a bit about who you are, what you're all about, what kind of coach you are, and how you got started.
Oh man, loaded question.
Very loaded. And you can take as long as you need, because I truly love hearing people's stories, because I do feel like they can resonate with everybody. So take as much time as you need, babe.
Yeah. Well, first to start, my name is Jessica, and I've been in the coaching space for going on 5 years now, which is crazy because so much has shifted, including myself. So I'll start with what I used to do, and then I'll kind of get into what I do now. So I started my entrepreneur journey in health and wellness. I know quite a lot of people did. And it was just like my gateway to showing myself I have more than just sitting at a desk and not really enjoying my career and just waiting for the weekends, to be honest with you. So I had a big health and weight loss or a weight challenge, I should say. And that led into curiosity of fitness and nutrition. So I became a health and fitness coach in 2019, and I quit my job in April of 2019. And so that was like my open journey of entrepreneurship. And then a lot shifted. I shifted a lot. And I had a big spiritual awakening in 2020 when the pandemic was happening, questioning what I was doing, how I was serving my clients, and was I living up to my potential? And I started to question that. And I started to really get curious of, could I be doing more with my clients? And synchronistically, because I always feel like the universe is giving us all of the signs all the time, I was getting clients that wanted to do deeper mindset work. Well, maybe not asking for it, but needed it. Because when they were coming to me for health and wellness issues, it was a lot about internal reflection of self and relationship to self issues. So it got me thinking. And so at the end of 2020, I was like, I'm over this career path. I know I want to be an entrepreneur, but like fitness is just, it's not enough for me. It's not enough evoking transformation for me. And so I am a person always of integrity, of word. And I decided, okay, well, if I am going to be that person that shifts and changes people on a deeper level, guess what? I got to do it myself. So I invested my first like really big girl investment in the end of 2020, started working with a coach that helped me do all the things that I wanted to do. And so it led me into life coaching. And so that was a really powerful journey because life coaching wasn't just, okay, I'm going to help you with life. I'm going to help you figure out like life. And
it never is, right? There's always so much more.
There's so much more. And, I feel, I like to say the umbrella term of life coaching because it's so saturated now. It's so overused, but really the work that I do is helping you remember who you truly are by uncovering those deeper layers of armor. Like I like to say, like we have our heart armored and we have to de-armor ourselves. So it started with working primarily with women, just helping them find themselves through this deeper work and really figure out who they were without the expectation of other people, without the people pleasing. It's like, what's in your heart? What do you actually want? And then I felt a little like pivot again coming, because I wasn't fully satisfied with the depth I was reaching with people. And I wanted to specifically work with more entrepreneurs and impact driven individuals, because every time I talked about passion, purpose, fulfillment, I got so lit up. And so I listened to my heart in this moment and I said, okay, I'm ready to pivot. And so currently I'm doing the same work, but I'm working specifically more with coaches and entrepreneurs, helping them really get into their heart so that they can see their path clearly and have that transmute into their messaging, into the right clients, and really creating a strong, confident, personal brand, whether that's on social media or in person, but just really helping them feel confident from the inside out, knowing that it all starts with that deep part of ourselves that's not met, which is those inner childhood wounds, and really helping them see themselves maybe for the first time.
And my ears kind of perked up when you said people pleaser. And I know a lot of women who come into my coaching container do identify as a people pleaser. And I know that a lot of that stems from like past childhood trauma, all that sort of stuff, things from our childhood. But like, how do you coach your clients through getting through being a people pleaser, especially when it comes to building your business?
It first starts with the awareness and the acceptance of where this person is at. And, not everything is meant to be heard and seen at the exact time, even though you as the coach might know. And I'm sure, Allison, you understand what I'm saying. Like, we can see your clients' blind spots, but we have to be very meticulous of like how we deliver it and what we deliver. So to answer your question, is really just helping people reconnect those unmet needs. And I do that through a lot of parts work. So inner dialogue, and working with the subconscious mind to basically have two parts, because what is happening is that there's an unmet need and in a childhood wound, and maybe that is showing up at 6 years old. So when you're having your temper tantrum or when you're people pleasing, that 6-year-old is actually playing a role. He or she is acting out in this moment, and you have no conscious awareness of it usually. Maybe you start to. And so we want to work with that 6-year-old. We want to work with that part that was not seen, heard, met, or understood. That is what's really happening when we are acting out per se, or not acting in our character. And so when we can work with those parts and we can help understand what that part needs over time, that manifestation of that behavior no longer shows up in that person's life because they've already healed it. And it's mother and fatherhood wounding is the most challenging, because we, unfortunately, most of the time anyway, have to reparent ourselves by ourselves. We're not going to get that external validation from our in real time parents most of the time. So we have to really ask ourselves, how can we give ourselves what we did not have and give ourselves proof of evidence that it's possible? And then once we start to ingrain that new belief, that behavior just doesn't show up anymore. So it's a journey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm a semi-recovered people pleaser, but it also shows up in business, right? Like, our business is the best form of self-development for us, where we start to see all of the things about us that like we didn't necessarily know existed, And I love that you brought up like just being aware of that and like taking those like next steps to start healing from that. I'd love for you, because I know that you've pivoted a lot in your journey of like just kind of trusting in the path. And I think so many women have a hard time trusting in that little nudge to like, oh, maybe I should niche down, or maybe I should maybe go into a whole different type of coaching. Realistically, like, you went from being a fitness coach now to being like a healer, and like something so like, you can probably, if you probably talked to yourself 10 years ago, probably wouldn't guess this would have been the type of coach you would be. But just kind of trusting that nudge. Like, so like, what kind of like, I don't know if you can like even explain like what was really happening during these pivots of like, all right, I'm just going to go for it and just trust that it's going to be the thing that helps me with my wealth, but also helps me be fulfilled and happy at the same time.
Yeah. I think as business owners, we forget that we can evolve like humans. And I think there's a lot of pressure on creators, because we are creators, right? We wear multiple hats in our business. So as entrepreneurs, creators, online business owners, what have you, we have to realize like we are also growing and expanding. And I think it's kind of like this double-edged sword sometimes, right? Because you just said that our personal development journey is like the most expansive, high, low, and the biggest journey you'll ever go on, especially as a business owner. So it makes sense, like we're going to evolve and pivot and want to do that, want to evolve. And as a business owner, there's like this little bit of guilt, overwhelm, maybe shame that comes up because you're like, how is my audience going to perceive this new version of me? Can I cuss on this podcast?
Of course, Beth.
Yeah. Okay. Like, fuck, So, and when I was transitioning, I had that fear, I had that guilt, I had that shame of, I was getting really, really well known on my platform and in my audience specifically around fitness. Like it was almost, I think, because I pivoted in 2021. It's 2024, right? That's going on year 4 of the pivot, right? Of completely branching into a new industry. Up until 2 years ago, I still was getting asked to make fitness plans. So I think it was a little bit challenging for people to really understand where I was going and maybe even take me serious. So it was a big identity shift I had to be okay with. And it took some time. Like I knew that there were parts of me that were like not ready to fully pivot and let go. And even the most extreme, right, from fitness to life coaching was very extreme, but even the little nuanced pivots in this journey now where I was specifically only working with women. I still have a deep call to women, but now I'm having men work with me, which I'm very open to. So after life coaching, working with just women who were like lifestyle coaching essentially and helping them figure out who they are and doing all this deeper work, then it was like, okay, well, now I want to pivot to entrepreneurs. And that was probably the most challenging one for me besides the fitness to life coaching, because I really had to be okay with the topics of conversation I wanted to start having, going deeper into certain topics and having maybe more of a, outlook perspective of like the woo-woo stuff, getting into plant medicine, all those things, right? So it was something internally that I had to be okay with and ask myself, I'm coming on this platform, social media, Instagram, to be the most authentic version of myself. And to me, social media has also been such a healing journey of authenticity. So I asked myself, well, what is it going to be if I keep dismissing my heart, keep dismissing these whispers that are coming up saying you're meant for more and you're ready to pivot and it's okay to pivot and it's okay if people unfollow you, because that was happening. And I really had to be okay with where I was, knowing where I wanted to go for me. And knowing that the right person, my ideal client, will follow me either one, all the way through, or number 2, he or she is going to understand the evolution of me and be okay with that. And stop trying, again, coming back to people pleasing, stop trying to be perceived in a certain way. Because as a personal brand, as a creator, as a business owner, if you're so caught up in the likes, you're so caught up on muting yourself because you're afraid of what the other people are going to say that you're working with, etc., you're not going to get very far in this industry, period. Because now more than ever, we are looking for originality and authenticity. And so you have to get real with yourself. And yeah, it was a constant like back and forth of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out until I was ready to be like, I am ready to be both feet in, and this is where I'm at.
I think being authentic is probably one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to really wrap their head around. And they're like, well, I'm trying, like I'm, posting pictures of my day and this sort of stuff, but like really being truly vulnerable, sharing the crappy parts of entrepreneurship, but also like the winnest of wins. Like they're even afraid to share that because like, what if somebody thinks I'm bragging? What if somebody thinks I'm being too much, And it's like, but they need to see it all, right? And so I think a lot of people have that fear of being truly authentic because like, what if I get unfollows, or what if this happens? And so I'm all about like educational content is great, but that's not going to get you clients. Like you
Yeah.
sharing your thoughts, you sharing your realness with the world, your beliefs, just how you want to show up, what you value. If that's what gets you more clients, that's what gets you more of the following. But yeah, like when we're just so generic, like it's hard to really stand out in front of all of that
Yeah.
noise. And so I love that you even said like I lost followers. There was people that like I didn't resonate with anymore. So whatever, like stuff happens. But like, so I'd love for you to like kind of shift like what does authentic mean to you with like showing up on social media now?
Hmm. You raise a really good point and a good question that I really do think that authenticity is the hardest thing because we're still worried about what other people think.
Yeah, no
And
matter what, like even I feel like even
yeah.
the most healed of healed people are still afraid of what's going to happen if I say this.
Yeah, yeah, and to me, it's like a learned skill. It's like flexing a muscle, right? I mean, we can use fitness analogy here. Like we're building muscle, we got to go to the gym and go and do the same exercise over and over and over until eventually, like, wow, I have biceps, or wow, like my shoulders got a little bigger, right? So, if we can think about these fears or these parts of ourselves that are feeling a little shy as an exercise, we can get better at it. So, for me, authenticity on my social media is really what you shared, was being authentic in my self-expression, being authentic in how I want to show up, and being vulnerable. And I think that there's a fine line of vulnerability because we want to really think about our intention of vulnerability, right? Whether, like, I believe there's ethical vulnerability and then there's malicious vulnerability, where it's like I'm using my story to lure you in and to, make you do something, blah, 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 blah. And I know most of us are not here to do that, but just being mindful of how you are sharing a vulnerable part of yourself on social media using trigger warnings and things of that sort. But yeah, just being integrity with yourself. So vulnerability is a big part of the work that I do, and also sharing, because to your point, it creates connectivity. It creates a sense of relatability. And when we can relate more to other people, our ideal client, and show them I might know a little bit more than you, but I'm also a human just like you. So I think sharing more of my humanness and sharing more of like my mistakes and sharing like in real time things that I'm moving through, again, making sure that I feel like at a good capacity. Because I think another thing with vulnerability and authenticity is like if you're sharing something that has happened, whether it's a process you went through or a moment of learning, you want to make sure that you're at a place where you can like fully receive any negative feedback, which I believe is like telling internally like you're ready to share it. So those things really play into account of how I share and what I share. But authenticity is really just being you, like finding those weird quirks and like our opinions and what have you that can really help you share this sense of leadership that you're leading your life with.
Mm-hmm. I know it's one of the main things that you focus on in your coaching is like really helping these entrepreneurs become leaders. What does it actually look like? Like give me like an example of that.
Yeah. Well, I like to say everyone has their potential of being their own inner leader. And so I just hosted a mastermind, which I'm enrolling in April again, but it's called the Inner Leader. And I thought that was so fitting because when we talk about leadership, a lot of people go to, okay, strategy or the way that I talk or right, all this like tangible, practical stuff. And yes, there is a level of that. But I think the inner leader is like the inner self that's like stepping up to lead, even though that there's fear like afoot. And there are still challenges we're moving through. And how do we still lead ourselves to our goals or to the things that we want to do? Or even when we're working with clients, how can we discern and detach from a personal situation we're going through and still lead our clients? That was a big challenge for me when I was going through a lot of personal stuff back in 2022. And I had to cancel my client calls. And I'm not to say that like there isn't a time in need, but it was I couldn't coach myself. I always had to ask my coach, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to handle this problem or this, or like, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I'm just going to cancel this or X, Y, and Z. Right. And I was like, this is actually costing me a lot of money and really doing a disservice, because all I'm going to do is lean on everybody for the rest of my life. Like, I can't do that. So, when we talk about becoming your own inner leader, it's really helping people coach themselves through their problems. And I mean the internal conflict of like, I'm not good enough, or I don't know if this person wants to work with me. Okay, so then no one wants to work with me. All this like inner critic that really prevents us from showing up really strong in ourselves with our clients and to lead a business, right? We're all getting into business to make money. So we need to get really good at the business part. We need to get really good at the coaching part, or whatever service you're providing, right? And that takes a sense of inner leadership.
So for the person that is leaning on you or leaning on a coach overall to get validation all the time, like, am I doing this right? Like, I don't want to move on to the next piece, or I don't want to do, like, I don't want to record the podcast episode until I get your thumbs up. Like, what's really going on in her head?
Self-doubt, insecurity that your story is enough. It's enoughness. It's worthiness. And when we cannot be confident enough in our own actions, in our own story, in our own doings and desires, then we're going to constantly be leaning on other people.
I think you like totally nailed that on the head. I love how you said that. Yeah, because I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I can coach myself through a lot of things. And I also ask my coach for help through a lot of things too. I love hearing new perspectives, but I think there is something to be said around somebody who is a lot like more self-led, who is really trying to show up as a leader and asking for validation all the time, or like, is this okay? Like, you know, the permission, like I just kind of constantly want permission.
It's the permission
to lead my business the way I want to lead, or lead my life the way I want to live. Like, to me, that's just like, it's hard to coach yourself through some of that stuff. And I think having somebody, you know, like you or I, that are kind of like, you just need to stop it with the self-doubt. Like, whatever you put out there is going to be good enough. It's going to be what your ideal client needs to hear today in some way or some form. And it's just, I don't know. I do coach people through that a lot because there's so much like that permission-based. There's so much validation that they want to have, that they're doing well. Like, they want the pat on the back, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know in business, it's not always going to be like that. Like, the most, I guess I would say the most successful entrepreneurs don't need that. They just do it and they figure it out as they go. Yes, they have coaches. Yes, they have people that are rooting for them and telling them, yes, that's a great idea or not a great idea, whatever, just giving them perspective. But I think I love just like your own, like you said, finding your own way to self-lead yourself and to become that leader within. I think that's just really powerful.
I love the distinguishing, because I have a coach, and I have had many coaches, and there's nothing wrong with having a mentor or a coach, but exactly what you're saying. Are you asking for permission of this person? Or are you asking them their input on something? Maybe it's like, hey, I want to create a new program. Can you help me create it with my already idea? Or ask me the right questions. A good coach will ask you the right questions so that you come up with your own idea, and they might help you execute it, but you're not asking for permission. And that is where you can tell when you are leading yourself or you looking for other people to lead you. And in the beginning of my career, I leaned so much on the permission. I didn't even know that I was doing it. It was like everything. Oh, I have a question about a client. Oh, I don't know this, or I'm just going to wait for your answer. And I actually I had one coach, love him so much, and now I understand why he did this, but he would leave me on red for 2 to 3 days. And then be like, hey, okay, I already figured it out. And he's like, I knew you would. And what he was teaching me was like, you don't need to come to me for everything. Maybe come to me like after you've tried all the things. And so it really helped me learn, I can actually coach myself through what I'm feeling and also still move forward on it, because I don't need permission anymore. And I think that's a big distinguisher with, if you're asking your coach all the time for things, are you asking for permission? Or are you asking for help a part of whatever you're working on?
That's actually a really good exercise, to leave you on red for 3 days. Oh man.
Yeah. Right. I've done that with a client, not 3 days, but I've done it for like a day, and, they would answer themselves. And I'm like, okay, great. It sounds like you figured it out. And I'm like, I'm doing this on purpose because I don't want people to get so reliant on me. And, it's not healthy, because you're not always going to have a coach. And then if you don't, what if I'm out of town? What if you know what I mean? Like all these different scenarios can happen. And yeah, you're just too lenient on somebody else. And, truth be told, it all comes down to childhood. All comes down to how you were perceived and what you're looking for, and that not enoughness. So it's like no matter how you spin it, there is some sort of unmet need that is playing out in your business. Or I like to say, a friend of mine actually said this to me, and I will quote her, Tatiana. She said, "We don't have business problems. We have personal problems that bleed into our business." And I was like, perfectly said. So valid, right?
Yeah. I have that quote is like in my course where I'm like, listen, like your lack of boundaries, the people pleasing, asking for permission or whatever. Yeah, it's just a personal problem showing up as a business problem now. So we need to acknowledge it. We need to look at it. So I know I love that. So it's just so relevant, so relevant. I don't, any other last words of wisdom for a coach right now who's like, I really want to be a leader in this industry. Like, what's my next step there?
I would say look at your own dark spots, like look at your own shadows and really ask yourself, are you preventing yourself from taking on that leadership role? And really ask yourself too, what does that look like in my own definition? Because once you write that on paper and get really clear on what leadership looks like in that industry, then you can ask yourself, okay, well, how am I blocking myself from doing that thing? And that's where the deeper inner work can come in, the mindset work can come in, the inner child healing can come in, right? To like mitigate those issues. And then I would say take actionable steps to move yourself forward and showing up boldly on whatever it is, whether that's like on your Instagram or social media or in person, what have you, whatever that is for you. How can you take a bolder stance on showing up more fiercely and confidently? And it's just again, it's a muscle that needs to be flexed, but don't discredit that there's deeper work to be done to get you to there, but you can do both at the same time. Just slowly trekking.
Yeah.
Slowly trekking.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Well, tell the audience a lot more. I feel like there's so much more that you can help people with. Like we like barely even scratched the surface of like all of the amazingness that you are. So really tell me a bit more about your coaching, like, and how you really do help people, entrepreneurs specifically, heal through this sort of stuff and really have them activate that leader that's inside of them.
Well, first, it's really getting clear on what you want. I believe a lot of us are still settling for mediocrity or like just enough. I just a really quick, like in lived experience moment where I was settling. I actually have to move out of my apartment due to mold. And it's crazy because at first I was angry. At first I was like, I just got a good deal on this place and I was going to save money, right? Da, 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 da. But then there was like the sense of like reflection of being in the deep work, asking myself, like, what is happening here? Because I always feel like everything's happening for a reason. Coming to a fruition that upgrading my physical reality is going to match the leader that I want to be, match the person doing the thing, and all these really big goals I have for myself. So I help people just remind them of that. Like, look at all of the issues in their situations and really getting clear on like what it is that they want. And when we can get really clear and honest with what we want, more than likely, it's not what we have. And so when we can accept, I want more, when we can accept these bigger goals or bigger aspirations, okay, we can work with that. So I really help extract those big desires and goals and dreams that this person has and help them go deeper and reach farther. And then that's where like a lot of people are afraid to look, right? Because it's like, oh my God, well, what if I can? Or, oh my gosh, that's too much. Or what are people going to think, right? And that is where the jackpot is, because that's where we get to play and work with how they relate to their fear, how they relate to their desires, and really rewiring and kind of reorienting how they are moving through their life and moving through these problems or situations to reach their desired outcome. So through that, I find that a lot of clients start to feel more confident in themselves. They start to feel more authentic. They honestly start to disrupt a lot of their relationships because it's not in alignment anyway. And they start to just take these really big steps, which might feel like audacious and really out there. But what it comes to is that they're having more confidence to do the thing that they want to do and just having them nudge forward. So I really help people regulate themselves and find more possibility for themselves. And then we kind of create a roadmap to get there. So that's a really high level, but I think everyone can relate to like, how would it feel to relate to your fear in a different way? How would it feel to get out of a pattern that's keeping you stuck? Then what possibilities open? So if we can work on that and then have a roadmap to get to your destination, I mean, heck yeah, right? So
that was beautifully said. And I know that you also do retreats.
yes.
I know, I don't know if you just got done with or if you are.
No, I
having
have
one
one.
soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one April 5th. Yep. We're going to be in Sedona. So retreats are a really, really big part of the work that I do. And, you know, you don't have to be a client to come to my retreats, but, you know, long story short, that started when I was working with my coach and he started doing these like mini weekend retreats. And it was fun. Yes. But it got me really activated. And what I mean by activated, by like triggered, it helped me really think differently for myself. And that was really helpful, of course, because when we can think differently, we can start shifting, right? We can make change. And again, we get so like unconsciously settled in our environment where it's like I said, like my apartment, I was totally fine with it. And now I'm starting to see all these different new perspectives of like, this is why I actually have to move. And this is a blessing in disguise. So when we start to get a new perspective, we can start to shift. So retreats are really helpful because it's a very immersive healing experience, but it's also a place for you to get activated, for you to really invest in yourself and invest in your growth so that after these retreats, you can have a life-altering experience and not just be an experience, but an actual life change. And a big part of my retreats is that I do integration after, which is a lot of where people, I notice anyway in the industry where people are hosting is like, they don't offer anything after. It's like, okay, you did this experience and here you go, figure it out. And that's where a lot of people fail because, you know, their clients just don't know how to actually like integrate what just happened and make sense of it and apply it. So
yeah, and like in real life, like you're going to go back to your real life now. Like, how are you actually going to implement this now?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
No, I love that. I remember after one of the last retreats I went on, he was like, call me tomorrow. Like, or like the next, it was like, you know, call me on Monday, like get home, get settled in, but like, let's like talk about your next steps. And like, I ended up working with him for like another 3 months after that, just because I felt so activated after that experience. And like, it was probably like one of the most like amazing weekends of my life. But yeah, like I personally love retreats. Like, I think more people need to be going to them. They need to be like having them even as coaches, being just like in person, even with a group of people. It's so magical. So I'm so happy that was a part of your calling and what you want to do. I know eventually in my couple year, my 2-year plan, I definitely want to host my first retreat.
Yeah.
And, you know, bring women together who love business, but also like want to do some healing and do some spiritual work. So I just love that was something that you transitioned into. So thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to leave the audience with today.
Yeah, I would say, you know, really look at the parts of yourself that are feeling activated from this experience, from this conversation. That's a really great place to start. You know, I think a lot of people are like, I don't know where to start. And it's like, start there. Start with the parts of you that are feeling disassociated, that are feeling avoiding, that are feeling challenged in your business, your personal life, or whatever. And start to ask yourself, how can I just create 5% more of confidence in this space?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that quote. It's like, just be 1% better, right? 1% better.
Yeah,
but I'm like, there's a lot of truth with that. Like, just what's one thing you want to try and you haven't tried yet? Like, you're going to realize maybe it wasn't so bad, or I hate that and I'm never going to do that again. Right. Or whatever. But like, it's just important that you're trying new things, getting a little uncomfortable, and sometimes realizing the uncomfortableness isn't so bad.
Yep. Agreed. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Jessica, how can people find you, or if they want to work with you, like what's their next steps?
Yeah. So I mostly hang out on Instagram. It's at Jessica Marie Step. And yeah, just shoot me a DM or you can just give me a follow. And if you're interested in working with me, just shoot me a DM and we can kind of talk conversation from there. There's so many different things I'm kind of cooking up. Again, right now I have my retreat in Sedona in April. I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out, but that's when it's coming up. And my mastermind, the Inner Leader, is we're going to be enrolling in April. So I'll have a lot more information this month as we start the launch process. So I'm really excited because it's really working on the interpersonal skills. So nervous system regulation, mindset, subconscious work, really getting aligned with our deep desires and then learning how to actually move through them in our body. So like you mentioned, the healing work, getting really alchemized to that, and then execution on what that roadmap is going to look like. So I'm really freaking stoked. I don't really see a lot of things happening on this sort of like the interpersonal and the execution on business. So I'm really excited to kind of bring that into the world. And that's pretty much what I have going on right now. So really excited.
Awesome. Okay, guys, go follow Jessica. I'll put all the things in the show notes so you guys can see those. And just thank you so much. I love your spirit. I'm just so happy that our worlds we're now on each other's paths, which is so nice.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Coach podcast today. A couple favors before you go. If you found this episode helpful, please take a screenshot and share it on Instagram. Most importantly, don't forget to tag me at Allison Henderson _coach. That's ALLISON Henderson_coach. And lastly, please take a minute to rate this episode and leave a raving review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Okay, ambition is great, but it's time to get to work. Take action and commit to being 1% better every day. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again next week.